implementing cost increases we've seen incurred in our GDOT design bid build letting projects. Before I jump into those topics, I would just like to give an overview of the Office of Engineering Services. As you can see on the org chart, we're a direct report to the Chief Engineer. We have four main functions, I call those in our office, and I'll start with our value engineering on the left of the slide. Our value engineering, we utilize two consultant contracts to conduct value engineering studies on projects that require those. The next area I'll move into is our design review section. That section focuses on improving and ensuring we have quality in our construction plans, and that's primarily done through our field plan review process and the reports that come out of those meetings. The next area to the right, far right, is our environmental compliance section. They perform independent inspections for permit compliance on our active GDOT construction projects. They're also a direct source for the district construction offices regarding permit issues, and specifically that's usually involving with erosion control measures. And then finally, which really connects to my main topics today, is our estimating section. Part of that section, the smaller part, they review all of the program cost estimates that are submitted to update program costs, and their focus there is on quality and improving the accuracy of those. And they also serve as a resource to the designers and consultants that are preparing those estimates. And then also within our engineering section resides GDOT's chief estimator. And his staff prepares the engineer's estimate that is used for comparison to all contractor bids for GDOT lettings. That brings me to just a brief summary of our bid evaluation policy. You can see the policy number there. This policy defines internal procedures used to evaluate contractor bids for GDOT lettings. It establishes the engineer's estimate as a benchmark for comparing all bids. It establishes an estimating committee. This committee reviews the engineer's estimates and meets before the letting to approve or accept the estimates. The committee also meets after the letting and evaluates contractor bids. They meet to finalize recommendations that are then passed on to the bid review committee. The policy establishes the bid review committee. This committee meets after each letting to review estimating committee recommendations. They in turn then provide recommendations and supporting documentation to the commissioner regarding the award, rejection, postponement, or deferral of each project. And then these two tables, got ahead of myself, these two tables show you the two committees and the membership of those defined by title. Now, talking about letting cost increases, I'm going to present these in a couple different ways. First, I'm going to present by project type. And here we'll be looking at awarded projects, and I'll present both the low bid, the increases in the low bid, and the increases in the engineer's estimate for the corresponding project types. Here are the four project types I'll be covering with you today. Once I've done that, I will move on to highlighting some selected bid items where I'll be presenting how the increases in the weighted average low bid for those items. When we speak of weighted average low bid, that's across all project types. And then I'll finish with highlighting select work components and how we've increased the cost of these components in our engineer's estimate. And when we speak of work components, we're talking about things such as labor, material costs, and equipment costs. So our first project type is asphalt resurfacing. What we do with these to compare and see how they're increasing is we take the total project cost and we convert that into a cost per 12-foot wide lane mile of resurfaced area. We've excluded interstate projects from this slide. There were 9 interstate projects in this time period not included. We've categorized or combined the data into 6-month increments, as you can see across the bottom of the slide, ending with the month and year shown, with the exception of the last column just being the first 3 months in this fiscal year. On all of these slides, I'll present on project types. The engineer's data is presented in red data, and the low bid is in blue data. Yes, ma'am.
So does this represent an almost doubling of costs in those 3 years?
Yes, ma'am. Yes. So this slide represents a total of 343 projects for approximately $1.1 billion in total low bid costs. And here, when you're speaking of the increases, you can see across the timeline here, been a 74% increase in the engineer's estimate and a 90% increase in the low bid. The next project type is roundabouts, where we're also using the total project cost, and we convert that into a cost of per square yard of what we call constructed impervious surface. So what that is all the finished surfaces, which would include the asphalt, concrete paving, and all the other concrete finished surfaces such as driveways, sidewalk, curb and gutter, header curb, the concrete truck apron in the roundabout, and also raised median. This slide represents 41 projects, and it was approximately $140 million in total low bid, or about an average of $3.4 million per roundabout over this time frame. And once again, you can see the respective increases in both the engineer's estimate and the low bid across the timeline shown here. And if I back up just a second, in this slide you can see it too. The really big increases, we started seeing those in 2022. Kind of see that same pattern. The next two slides will deal with our bridge replacement projects. This slide is for our low impact bridge program. That program is used primarily on off-system roadways that don't require additional right-of-way, have minimal environmental impacts, and they use an off-site detour during construction. For bridge projects, to compare those and track the cost, what we look at is just the bridge construction item cost. So this presents the bridge construction item cost converted into per square foot, of bridge deck that's constructed. That gives us a method of comparing those costs and taking out the part of the roadway that leading up to the bridge. So this slide has a total of 59 projects for approximately $94 million in total low bid amount, for an average of approximately $1.6 million for the low impact bridge program project. And you can see once again the respective increases, though not as high, still pretty significant. The next slide has all the remaining bridge replacement projects. And once again, these are projects where the prime focus and scope is to replace one or more bridges. And the characteristics on these projects can vary greatly from the feature being crossed, whether they're using an on-site construction with a stage construction. So there's a lot of different types of bridge replacements that fit into this slide. This slide, you can see that the data is a little more erratic. But it represents 132 projects for approximately $690 million in total low bid. Or if we just average them across the entire slide, that's $5.2 million per project. So a little explanation for the far right, where you can see the engineer's estimate in these first 3 months of this year has kind of converged back to the low bid, is one of the sections I'll present later about component costs. We made some significant increases in some of those component costs that affect bridge projects. And also, even though the costs are still going up, we have been seeing a lot of good competition amongst contractors on bridge replacement projects. This slide represents urban widening, not as many projects. And what we do for the widening projects is we take the total project cost and we convert that into. Oh, sorry, thank you. For urban widening, we take the total project cost and convert that into a cost per mile of widening. So you can see once again that similar shape we're seeing in the increase. This slide has 18 projects at $550 million total low bid and resulting in approximately 45 miles of widening. And here you can see the respective increases once pretty remarkable. Unfortunately, it only gets worse when we look at rural widening and new locations. So this slide, we've added 4 new location projects to the rural widening projects, and 3 of these were the new locations were bypasses, and they were all just new 2-lane roadways. So because of the more erratic behavior here, we've also fit in the dashed lines a trend line across there. And this slide represents 22 total projects for approximately $756 million in total low bid. And resulting in about 117 miles of either widening or some new location roadway. The increase here that I'm showing you here is for the trend line, but you can see pretty staggering numbers. And to put this kind of in perspective, how Georgia is doing, we're not the only states having to deal with these challenges. So the next slide is the National Highway Construction Cost Index, and that's published by the U.S. Department of Transportation Federal Highway Administration. So what we've done with this slide is we've taken the increase of the change in that index from quarter to quarter, as you see across the bottom of the slide. So that goes from the third quarter of 2020 through the first quarter of 2023, and that's calendar quarter. And you can see there's been a 51% increase in that index. That index is, they define that index as a measure of average change over time in the prices paid by state transportation departments for roadway construction materials and services. So I think it shows that nationally states are facing the same challenges we are in Georgia when we're dealing with construction project cost increases. Now I'm going to switch gears and highlight the selected bid items where we're presenting the weighted average low bid increase from the time period of the 6-month period ending in December of 2020 through the 6-month period ending in June of 2023. And just a reminder, the weighted average low bid increase, that's across all project types now. So this slide, we've compiled some of the common asphalt mixes and the base material that goes into a new pavement section. Now, on the far left, well, first of all, you can see the increase on all those is pretty substantial. But on the far left, that would be the 12.5 millimeter super pave. That's the top course, or this, what we call the surface course. And then leading to the 19 millimeters, the next layer, and then finally the 25 millimeters, the base layer in an asphalt section. Some additional explanation is needed for the graded aggregate base. We have it on. So the first column that's got a 30% increase, that's where the contract measures.
The last column was the 14% increase. That's where the contract pays for the VAB and regular based on the measures and take what was stated per yard. And those areas in states are typically the same in those areas there aren't adequate the material itself, the area has to be created into the area. So part of that increase you see there is certainly due to the increase in the shipping. But once again, just to put it in perspective, the graded aggregate basically the national payment of dollars per ton is the predominant way to do it. And for this, the data on this slide, there was 3.7 million tons of graded aggregate base. And for the last column, the national payment of dollars per square yard, a little 18%. You can see the 30% increase is really the main experience. We move on to bridge construction. You can see without even reading it, we've been very high increases. So what we've done here is compile some of the common bridge construction items. Starting on the left, those are the themes that are used in the building at bridge project. Earlier, the next two columns are the common AASHTO, what we call AASHTO beam shapes that are used in the project. The next column is the most predominant type of timing used, which is the combination of the four common industrial shapes. And then move on to bar reinforcing steel, that's not the reason. And then finally, the last column is the people common most of the first line. The first line for the portion of the logo is 54 and just after the point. So once again, across the board, you can see significant increase in the storm drainage and storm drainage is incredibly increased, as you can see here. We're just going to do we just highlighted four items.
Far left, the storm drain pipe. This is a combination of the 6 standard diameters that we use, and the H1 to 10 means that's the height to fill above. That's the most predominant use of this item. The next 3 columns are the common drainage structures that we use in conjunction with these storm drain pipes in drainage systems. This slide will present what we call concrete flat work. In our estimating world in the contract industry, flat work is a term we use to describe those finished concrete surfaces, not including pavement. And so you can see on the left, we have the two common curb shapes. That's what the type means. Curb and gutter that's used with a 49% increase. And you can see reading across the slide, the next item is our common thickness ditch paving. And the last three items you see listed there, sidewalk, driveway, raised median. Each of those data sets is a combination of the most common thicknesses of those items used. So significant increases in this concrete work also. The last slide on weighted average load bin increases is for guardrail. And on the far left, we have type W, which we commonly call W-beam. So when you see a section of guardrail along a roadway, the W-beam is the predominant part of that section of guardrail. The next column, type T, which is T-beam, that's used for a transition from the W-beam to something like a bridge barrier. And the last two columns are our most frequently used end treatments on each end of the guardrail. So my last area I want to talk about is, or present to you, is how we've made some of the component cost adjustments, increases in our engineer's estimate. And the first table that I'll show you here is how we've accounted for some of these labor categories you see, and this is since June of 2020. So this is telling us since June of 2020, we've increased foreman's costs in our components cost in our estimate by 3% up to 31% for laborers. Because many of the items we estimate, our estimators break the item down to the components, which could be labor, materials, equipment costs, overhead and profit. It's a very thorough workup. So that's what this is telling us here is in those workups that have these labor categories, that's how we've increased that particular item in our estimates. The next table is for trucking. We're showing it for milling and paving operations and trucking used in earthwork, and both of those are a 24% increase. And I apologize because I should have said on the labor table, the third column is our opinion of what the trend has been in this area in calendar year 2023. So backing up to labor and both trucking, we think it's been holding pretty steady this calendar year. I apologize for missing that on the first table. The next item is equipment. This would be equipment not including trucking. So you can see milling and paving operations once again. You can see earthworks, substantial increase. So we're talking about excavators, bulldozers, compactors, that type of equipment. And then cranes, a huge increase. As you can see, 110%. We've increased our estimates since 2020. And we tell people just, look outside the window. See all the cranes being used on vertical construction. And we're not talking about the big tower cranes. Obviously, cranes have a big effect on bridge replacement. This table presents some material costs where this is aggregate. So this is how we've increased the cost of the aggregate at the quarry. We would not include shipping, placing, compacting, finishing. So aggregate use in pavement, we've increased that by 28%. And aggregate for graded aggregate base, we've increased that cost in our workups by 52%. Similar, this is the concrete purchased at the batch plant. So this is concrete used in bridge structures and box culverts. And you can see the increase in there is the same. And once again, on the third column, this is just our opinion on how this is going in 2023, calendar year 2023. The last slide has some miscellaneous items. Any of our estimates that deal with steel, we actually account for the amount of steel and that cost in it. You can see a big increase there, 63%. We feel that it's pretty steady in 2023. And then reinforced concrete pipe, we've increased that component of the purchase of pipe by 28% since June of 2020. The last item there, liquid asphalt cement. That's a petroleum-based product. I'm sure many of you know that, if not everybody. And so obviously that varies quite a bit with the cost of crude oil. We adjust this every month in our estimates because we use GDOT's published asphalt cement price index. But you can see since June of 2020, that index cost has increased by 43%. And it has been decreasing in 2023. And that will, for our presentation, I'll be more than welcome to ask any questions.
Is there anything on any?
my best answer to that, I'm sure the commissioner can add to that. You know, we don't see that a lot. But obviously it's going to be related to the economics in general, right? And you know, certainly if there's a slowdown in the economy or something to that effect, that could affect that. But we're not viewing this, we don't try to predict what's happening with our estimates, first of all. But when we're just sitting around talking about it, we don't perceive this as just hitting some plateau and it's going to go back down. And I'll ask the commissioner if he would like to add to that.
Well, I'm no economist, but I'll play one at work. I concur, Eric, and I think with the great growth that Georgia has and all the other construction and manufacturing, all the plants that are being built, all the economic development, warehouse distribution, there's a high demand still in commodities, construction commodities, which drives demand. So laws of supply and demand says that we're probably plateaued. Because you're steady, I like that. We're sort of steady, but I don't see this ever going back to the way it used to be. It's gonna be costly. That's really part of Eric's presentation today, is to inform you all of, hey, that when we award these projects, this costs a whole lot more than what we budgeted for when you approved the previous step, 3 or 4 years ago. So these increased costs are real, which erode the funds that we have to do the work. And Eric and his team, Eric, while I got the floor, thank you for what you and your team do. They do a fantastic job. For a long time, Eric won a lot of jobs. They would beat the contractor's estimates. But now they're adjusting. I expect you to be back beating. So Eric could win a lot of work if he had time to go build it.
And I think the project type side, Commissioner, showed that, that those first couple of 6-month periods, the red line was above. And that's what the Commissioner made by, we were winning that. And then we dropped behind them. And there's been some catch up on our part, obviously. And
why do you think it took so long for the catch up? Because for like 2 years, in the analogy of winning and losing, you were losing those estimates. Why did it take so long to catch up?
I'll answer that in relation to the component cost, because our estimators, they'll contact suppliers. They'll contact a quarry and get prices, but obviously we don't get the same prices from them. So we have to analyze that data and compare that to that data we've used in the past and how that compared to what was going on from the contracting side. When we talk about our labor increases, what we use is our estimators go into our filing system, ProjectWise, for those that know it, and they pull up the actual labor records from the actual projects, and they look at so we don't go out and look just at national indexes or something like that. We try to make it Georgia specific, and not to make an excuse or anything, but that analysis sometimes takes time.
Yeah.
And we don't want to, one of the things we don't want to inflate arbitrarily our estimate just to make things, to get closer. We want to be able to always say to the commissioner and to the chief that, this is, we put our best foot forward on this estimate, and, sometimes we're lagging behind them. Sometimes they're adjusting more. They also, something we don't do is we don't add risk to our estimates. And so, we don't have obviously the experience a contractor might have regarding that. We hear through the industry and stuff that they have a hard time getting quotes on prices that last any duration, that last longer than the duration. Well, we don't add any risk into our final engineer's estimate.
And that, Eric, that's spot on, and that's, I think that's probably the biggest difference is to our contractors' credit, when they're trying to get quotes on materials, when they're in such a volatile world, they can't get quotes that are very long at all, much less a 2-year or 3-year project. So they're having to bid risk in there so they don't lose their shirt, because they don't know, then they can't get a quote locked down. Again, I think that may be stabilizing a little bit. I'm looking at Will Rogers in the audience, and I think some of that's maybe, as Eric has shown, some things are steady and out, which gives a little more confidence. But on the flip side of that is we've had projects that we rejected, which nobody likes to do. And often you as the board will ask, well, why did you reject that project? We've gone back to try to make some projects smaller or less duration, so it lessens the risk on the contractor that they're having to bid. And hopefully we get a better bid and it's better for everybody, the contractor in the state. So I think that's probably the biggest difference of why Eric still has a job. We haven't let him go. He wasn't winning. I'm just kidding, Eric. Y'all, they do a fantastic job of trying to, again, give us at the time of the bid, what's the current market rates and what they believe that cost is to be. And I give, as he showed the first sort of slide, there's a hierarchy and a structure from the work they do, the review, the 2 levels of reviews that happen before we ever sign the contract and say proceed. There's a lot of diligence and thorough review done to make sure we're getting the very best we can for the taxpayers' dollars.
Any other questions? Mr. Rhodey, thank you for that presentation.
Thank you for your time.
Really appreciate it.
Very
Thank you.
interesting. Thank you.
If there's no further business, this committee stands adjourned.
Oh, yeah.
He's going.
All right, Greg?
Good afternoon,
Hello.
members of the committee, commissioner. Let's see. Great to be with you this afternoon. I'm sure all of you have heard of the major economic development announcements here in the state of Georgia, being Rivian Manufacturing and Hyundai Manufacturing, east of Atlanta and in Bryan County respectively. What you may not be familiar with is the activities that the department has been undertaking to support those major manufacturing efforts through the form of transportation projects that we are delivering commensurate with those manufacturing activities being stood up. And the purpose of this presentation is just to give you an update of what we've been up to, the projects that we are delivering, and the commitments that we are meeting to support these major wins. So before I get into the specifics of Rivian and Hyundai, just quickly on the overall economic development picture here in the state of Georgia. You heard the commissioner just a few minutes ago say that Georgia is growing, and we certainly are. And the e-mobility or electric mobility space, manufacturing space, is one of the areas that Georgia is absolutely at the forefront in terms of economic growth. Governor Kemp, in his inaugural address back in January, said he wants Georgia to be the e-mobility capital of America. And I can attest that if we are not there yet, we are certainly on the way. Just look at these stats here on this slide. Over the last 5 years, 45 e-mobility projects to date, totaling $25 billion in private investment. That's obviously headlined by Rivian and Hyundai, but it's certainly not the only e-mobility manufacturing announcements that have happened here in Georgia. These announcements represent over 30,000 jobs being created in the state of Georgia. And on the right, you can see just an image of some of the major activities. So obviously Rivian and Hyundai, but a number of battery manufacturing through SK Battery, LG, Fryer Battery down in Newnan. We also have electric buses being manufactured in Fort Valley through Bluebird Corporation, and electric vertical takeoff and landing aircraft out in Covington through Archer Aviation. So it's a whole suite of companies that are locating here in Georgia in this e-mobility space, and we as GDOT, in partnership with our other agencies in the state of Georgia, are raising the challenge to welcome these companies to the state and make sure that their manufacturing endeavors are supported. Getting into the Rivian announcement, just some basic facts. At the time, it was the largest economic development project ever announced in the history of the state of Georgia. 7,500 jobs representing $5 billion in investment. The announcement was made in December of 2021. I just want you to hold that date in the back of your mind as I talk about the progress that we realized in implementing transportation improvements for this facility as it comes online. Their goal is to manufacture 400,000 electric vehicles, their Rivian vehicles here at the East Atlanta megasite, just east of Covington, about 60 miles or so east of Atlanta. You can see the image here, Governor Kemp making that announcement in December of 2021. And this slide represents the portfolio of projects that we are delivering as Georgia DOT to support the East Atlanta megasite and the Rivian operation. Locally, they call it Stanton Springs, is the name of the area. That's sort of the local branding around it. And it actually, the Stanton Springs development borders both the north side and the south side of I-20, with the East Atlanta megasite where Rivian is being located being on the north side. So if you look at the graphic on the left, you can see 3 projects that we are delivering. The first being a widening of US 278 to support traffic flow from I-20, accessing the megasite itself. A brand new 4-lane frontage road paralleling I-20 for the length of the megasite. And then a new interchange at I-20 at a local road called Old Mill Road. That's an interchange project that we are delivering. So those are the first 3 projects that we introduced to the program to support this operation. The 4th project is a recent addition. It's actually a grade separation project where we are grade separating US 278. You can see it on the right there, to allow for a CSX spur line to access the megasite for rail operations to serve this car manufacturing facility as it's constructed. So that represents the portfolio of projects that the department has introduced into its program to deliver to support this operation. So I can show you the diagram, or I can show you a picture of what it looks like today.
Wow.
And this is an aerial view. This is actually looking south at the East Atlanta megasite. The big clear, I'll advance. I want to leave this just so you can get an idea of it. I've got some labels that'll pop up to orient you better. The big part on the bottom of the image is the Rivian site. You can see the grading operations substantially underway. On the right side of that area, that's actually to finished grade. So those pads are wrapping up to allow for construction of the facility to commence. On the left, they're still undergoing major mass grading of the site. Let me pop up the labels so you can see that. So starting at the bottom and then working its way up, I talked about the CSX grade separation that we are constructing. That will allow for the creation of a future rail yard. You can see the location of that right adjacent to the Rivian grading pads where the facility will be. Our future Old Mill Road interchange is a little bit off this image to the left, just to orient you a little bit. And you can actually see our new frontage road already well underway, paralleling I-20 right there in the middle of the screen, going between the Old Mill interchange and US 278. Just to show you an idea of all the other activity happening in Stanton Springs, south of I-20, as we're looking at this image, to the top of the page of this image, that's where Meta has located one of their major data centers, and you can see that facility being constructed. And then we also have Takeda, which does a lot of biosciences and pharmaceutical work, and other data centers in the Stanton Springs area. So major activity happening here east of Atlanta, and naturally Rivian sort of anchoring the whole area. To give you an idea of the size of the mega site, it's almost 2,000 acres of land that is being developed. So it is an absolute massive site. I encourage all of you, if you have an opportunity, to get out and take a look. It is very impressive.
Andrew?
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry, you go ahead.
No, go ahead.
So obviously this didn't work its way through planning over the last 10 years.
Correct.
So tell us how that works. So how do we commit to that? Where does this money come from and all that kind of stuff?
That's an excellent question. So the process for determining the transportation improvement projects to support a site like this happens in coordination with our other state partners, state economic development, the local development partners, so what we call the local joint development authorities, and then coordination with the company itself, right? So all of that gets wrapped into the overall discussion of site location, how the site is going to support their operation, and what the state can do to help bring that company to Georgia, right? So that's all part of that portfolio. Regarding the funding itself, these projects, along with what I'll talk about on the Hyundai project, were not in our program. These were brand new additions, so that as we worked through this effort, in recruiting Rivian, recruiting Hyundai, the department committed to delivering these projects. We did not realize additional funding to do so. All right, so as we introduced these into the program and placed funding on them, it did come at the cost of shifting other projects to accommodate these being accelerated to meet this demand. Does that answer your question? Yeah, good.
Well, so, I happen to be going to Augusta next week.
Yeah.
Is this something I can get off and kind of tool around and look at?
I would ask that we can talk after and we can
Okay.
arrange a visit, so I
That'd
can
be
have somebody take you around, or I can meet you out there myself as well.
I'll get with you.
Take a full look.
It is an active construction site.
I can see that.
Yeah, yeah.
Andrew,
Yes.
I don't even know what projects are being shifted because of these projects.
So that is all part of the STIP development process. So as we work through the most recent STIP that was approved, that's where, as we're introducing these projects, the shifting and working with the planning office, that's where we realize what those shifts are.
You didn't answer my question.
Are you looking for a list?
Yes.
Yeah, so we can ask planning to provide that. Planning makes those decisions in concert with what's ready to go to move forward, from a delivery point of view. So those, to be clear, those are definitely planning decisions.
Correct.
So do you
I
have
think
a
it's fair to
total,
ask for a list though.
Yeah.
So we can be aware.
Fair enough.
do you have a total of what this is costing?
The overall cost, I was going to get to that, but the overall cost for both the Rivian projects and the Hyundai projects is over $400 million estimated cost
For the transportation.
for the transportation projects. So specifically on the US 278 widening, what we are doing here is widening 278 from Shire Parkway to Willow Springs Church Road. It's a little over a mile widening for this project. Includes widening of the, utilizes the existing bridge, but allows for 4 lanes to cross I-20. This essentially covers the entire west side of the mega site and will provide access for the new frontage road. There'll be an intersection of the new frontage road as that is built. This project has been awarded to CW Matthews as the lead contractor with infrastructure consulting and engineering as the lead designer. It was delivered, all of these projects were delivered via design build methodology. We are anticipating completion in June 30th of 2024 for this project. Sorry. And then the I-20 frontage road, which ties into 278. Again, to give you an idea of scale, this is almost a 2.5 mile long brand new road, 4-lane facility along the frontage of the mega site. This was combined with the 278 project, so let as one contract. So CW and ICE is also delivering this project. So here's what it looks like today. The top left is US 278. So you can see the existing roadway there with grading activities already substantially underway. The bottom right is the new frontage road. So you can see mass grading substantially complete with aggregate base going down. That part in the middle where you see the activity, that is where we are building a triple box culvert over a creek there. So we had some grading to backfill. Actually, if you go out there today, that grading is also complete with aggregate base going down. So it is looking like a brand new road, essentially through the limits of the project. Here's another great shot further east of the project, closer to Old Mill Road, where you can see paving activities are already underway. I'm very proud of our team in delivering this work through our design build methodology, the Office of Alternative Delivery, our consultant support, our contractor support. As I talked about this project, the Rivian announcement was December of 2021, so it was less than 2 years ago. And this is what the new road looks like today. So it has been, dramatically accelerated and moving very quickly. So everyone is doing a great job to meet those commitments.
When do they anticipate beginning the plant construction?
That is a question for Rivian. I'm not privy to that exact date.
Probably when we get the road done.
Yeah, I know that has a lot to do with it. I just wondered if there was,
Right.
if they're on track,
Understand. And here you can see the layout of the I-20 at Old Mill Road interchange. So what this is actually doing is shifting the old alignment of Old Mill Road a little bit to the west to locate that interchange. You can see it's a roundabout design at the intersections there, but provides a direct four-lane connection from that interchange on I-20 up to the frontage road on the east side of the mega site. So that will be their main truck entrance into and out of the plant. You can see project bid opening of October 2023. I will say that project was successfully bid last Friday, and we haven't had an apparent awardee that we hope to finalize here in the coming weeks for that project to advance to meet those dates as you see on the screen there. And then finally, this project is trailing a little bit from the other three as it was introduced late. As in working with Rivian, they finalized their rail access component for the site. Again, this was the 278 grade separation. We are currently underway in pre-construction activities, pre-lead activities, developing our detailed schedule that on track for a Q2 of 2026 delivery for this project, which would be commensurate with their rail operations being underway. So that wraps up the East Atlanta megasite and Rivian. I'll switch gears now to Hyundai. Again, sort of the basic facts in the announcement. I said Rivian at the time was the largest economic development announcement in history of the state of Georgia. Shortly afterwards was Hyundai, which became the largest economic development project in Georgia history in May of 2022. This project represents 8,500 jobs being created in a $7.5 billion investment. Their initial plans are to build 300,000 EVs at this facility, but it also includes a major battery manufacturing component as well. They call this their meta plant as they talk about their manufacturing ecosystem here in the U.S. And you can see the signing ceremony with the governor and Jay Chang, who's the president of Hyundai Motor Group, who came here for that ceremony in this picture. So very similar, it looks very similar, right? Portfolio of projects. So a widening of the existing state route there, US 280 in this case, along the western side of the mega site, a new frontage road, which will activate the entirety of the frontage, the entirety of the mega site, and then a brand new interchange at Old Kyler Road to allow for that secondary access. This site is almost 3,000 acres. Ms. Purcell can attest at the size of this and the scale. It's absolutely massive. The first time I went there and grading was underway, and you're standing on one edge of the site, you look to the far end, you can start to see the curvature of the earth, right? You can see the horizon line at the far end of the site. It's very impressive. And here is what it looks like today. So again, announcement in May of 2022. Here we are in October of 23, so that's 17 months. So a lot of activity has happened very quickly. And you can see that Hyundai Motor Group is building rapidly.
Yeah.
And if you drive down I-16, if anyone's done that recently, you can see, the structure going up, the steel going up, roofing going on, a lot of activity. A lot of that, for both Rivian and Hyundai, a lot of what you don't see is all the supporting infrastructure, water, power, things of that nature. Governments have been very active in delivering those facilities to these locations as well. But just to give you a little bit more context on location, obviously I-16 right there across, this is generally looking south. Our US 280 project is off to the right. The Old Kyler brand new interchange is off to the left. So you can't even see it on this image. And then the main plant is what they call HMGMA, or Hyundai Motor Group Meta Plant America, is what they're calling that. And you can see the car manufacturing facilities beginning to take shape. At the top, where it's still sort of graded area, that's where the battery joint venture will be located as they get underway as well. So it's a hive of activity there on the site. So just switching gears now to our specific projects, the I-16 frontage road across the entirety of the mega site. You can see where that will be located. If I go back, essentially on the foreground, just behind the way station there along I-16, that will be the alignment of the frontage road across the entirety of the site. But it's another full lane facility connecting US 280 to the Old Kyler Road This project has been awarded, has finished the pre-let phase and is into post-let. Matthews McClendon Joint Venture was awarded this contract with an anticipated completion of December 31st, 2024. We anticipate our construction activities happening in the next, beginning in the next 2 weeks to meet these dates. Second project is the widening of US 280. This is from Oracle Parkway on the north of I-16, all the way along the western side of the mega site down to Olive Branch Road. This project has also been awarded to Matthews McClendon Joint Venture. You can see a number of roundabouts here at this location to support the operations needed for the mega site and the numbers of vehicles and trucks that are going to operate that and to manage the appropriate access on the 280. Our completion date on this is our interim completion date is March 31st, 2025 to build a portion along the mega site itself. With sort of the trailing locations, we have a date of December 31st, 2025, north of I-16. I'm sorry. And then finally, the Old Kyler Road interchange. Again, a brand new interchange, sort of a greenfield project on the southeastern side of the mega site. We are in pre-let activities on that project right now, working through the environmental process and final costing plans, pulling together our final costing plans to begin the procurement process for letting. We anticipate that opening bids in Q3 of this upcoming calendar year with an anticipated completion March 31st, 2027. All of these delivery dates have been worked out in coordination with the local development authorities and with the companies as they, to align with their operations coming online and their production coming online.
Andrew, off of this interchange, all of the intersections are roundabout?
Correct.
That makes the cost lower?
It allows for, not necessarily, but it allows for truck operations to be very smooth coming off the interstate into the plants themselves. And then just sort of ending here, you know, again, focusing on that economic development picture and the what we're seeing in terms of growth in Georgia. These are just two recent announcements and quotes that I took from state economic development, where Georgia broke its economic development record for the third year in a row. That was just announced last month, showing the activity not just for these two sites, but really across the state of Georgia. This is impacting all corners of the state. And then again, just a couple weeks ago, the announcement that Georgia was named the #1 state in which to do business for the 10th year in a row. So that's a decade at the top. So that's just testament to what the state is doing, what Georgia DOT is doing to put our best foot forward to welcome these companies to the state. So that concludes my update, and we'll answer any questions you may have.
Any questions?
Very interesting.
It's amazing.
Very good presentation.
Thank you. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew.
Hey, afternoon, board. Thank y'all for having us here, Commissioner. Engineer, Deputy Commissioner. My name is Jeff Stone. I'm the equipment administrator for the Office of Equipment Management. Myself and my employees manage Georgia's largest state agency fleet. We are the largest. Try behind my back like Patrick.
There you go. Trick shot.
So some of some of the OEM's responsibilities, we do everything from conception to surplus, fleet operational policies, state motor pool, the Hero Fleet Support, the DOT CDL program, emergency responses, district shop support. Again, we do manage the largest fleet of state agencies. Some of our accomplishments are our CDL program, purchase of multiple use vehicles and equipment, redistribution of underutilized vehicles and equipment, providing excellent customer services to the office and the districts. Training on the PM manual, maintaining the brine operation at the MAU, that's for the Metro Atlanta. Emergency response, reduction of the fleet. Just say with a 35% higher purchase costs, OEM have had to focus on better ways to utilize our fleet. We've become more strategic in our spending and focusing our purchase on multiple use type of equipment. We are reassigning underutilized equipment and vehicles. We provide training to the shops, mechanics, drivers, machine operators, maintenance personnel, and any other office that we can assist and help with any type of training. We are consistently maintaining and streamlining the emergency operations and looking for new technology to meet the mission and goals of the department. As you'll see here on this slide, this is some of our training. So the department invested a trainer for each one of the districts. Not only that, we have 2 testers in the state that we invested in, as well as road courses throughout the district and a training spot for them. And as you can see in FY22, our pass-fail rate for our CDL employees were around 59%. 23 went to 61. As you can see from 24 to today, we're at 84%. We're starting to see a return for our investment. Our fleet reduction in the last 10 years, we went from 11,873 units to a current just under 7,900. Say about a 33.5% reduction, 3,900 units. In FY21 and 23, the department has sold over 1,691 pieces of equipment. That would be an off-road piece of equipment to a vehicle. Returning back to our fleet for the surplus sales is around $6,765,000 and some change. OEM has used the money for things like Wi-Fi inside of our shops, which has allowed us to get many updates to this newer equipment that takes a Wi-Fi to update the ECUs inside of them, reducing downtime and cost. We've also purchased new scanners for the districts, for the mechanics, lifts, specialized tools for the shops, expanded our brine operations. We also purchased aero boards, attenuators, mobile flaggers, mobile traffic light signals, aero boards with cameras, etc. OEM's evaluation of the fleet, we do a yearly evaluation. We got a rating system, we check the mileage, repair, operational cost. So each year we do a safety inspection on everything we own. Every year we touch one of them. We have built a rating system inside of our fleet program that helps a yearly for our purchase and evaluation of the units. We track the mileage on all the vehicles and the equipment to utilize our investment. We track preventive maintenance on all our vehicles and equipment. We track also downtime on everything, every piece of our equipment. The department opens and works through around 20,000 repair orders yearly. So I'll give you a current some of where we're at. These are our 401 pickups. So the green it represents where you're good. You'll see when you get down to the red, that's representing what we need to replace. It's at the point of the end of its life cycle. So if you look at the overall, the 401s, and they're broke down, you'll see like some of them may be a crew cab, some of them are standard cab, with the F-250s. This represents the entire fleet. Overall, we got a pretty healthy 401 fleet. Here's some of our data on the 401s. Talking about cost. So 2018, we were spending $31,000. To 2024, we're spending around $51,000. Pretty significant increase to start. Each year, it's around 6 to 10% each year that we have to figure out how to come up with it. All right, Andrew, what behind the back, no? There we go. So 406s. So a 406 is a prefix we use. That's our dump trucks. That's our tandems. That's the meat of the DOT of our equipment. Tandems are what we got to have. We got to have them to do everything. And you'll see in 2018, they were costing the department around $130,000. That's up to date. They're $238,000. Yeah, big increase. But our trucks are coming with a plow, a hopper, work ready. So when they get here, they're turnkey and hand them to the districts, they can go to work with them. We got one vendor to blame for any issues. I put this in here. This is just prior year funding. You'll see back in 19, we bought 386 pieces for $19 million. You'll see 20, we spent $19 million. We had bought 556 pieces. 21, we bought 9.5 million, 270 pieces, 22. So you'll see this representing up to, and let me explain 23, 22 and 23 was COVID. We still haven't received some vehicles. Actually, I've just got 4 vehicles on the ground last week prior to putting this together that we ordered in 21. We just got them. So look at 24. We're budgeted 22.5. 23, we're budgeted around 19. We still ain't seen all that equipment coming in. Due to the increased cost of equipment and vehicles, I strive to purchase the needs of the department, not the wants. We're going to get to purchase 183 pieces this year, 41 of them being dump trucks and 3 being specialized equipment.
Hey, Jeff, I got a question.
Go back, sir.
What, with the vehicles or the equipment that we've ordered in prior years, is that an industry delay? What's the reason we're not getting those?
It's every year you could possibly come up with. This started with COVID, as we all know. They went from COVID to supply issues, chain issues across, steel issues. We get past, we start growing past all that, and no one else. But now we're into UAW, with the strikes. Now we're into those. We had plant shut down, Reeboks. Yeah, it's
Just a multitude of factors that are going into those delays.
Yeah, it hasn't stopped since COVID. So see here, in 24 investment, this is what we're buying. We're buying tandems and single dump trucks. There's 41 of those. Lightweight ride, heavy rides. That's a small baby type dump to a 401. Some of our bucket trucks, we're buying 90 of those. 49 loaders, backhoes, maybe a skid steer, that type of stuff. 3 specialized, we're buying some milling machines and 2 pavers. Total of 183 pieces. You can see where I'm at, see the increase in cost.
One more question, if I may.
Yes, sir.
Do we expect delays to continue on into, our purchasing years next year and going forward?
Yes. I would almost say yes. Yeah, I mean, I'm hearing that from everybody we're talking to. The equipment side of it, no. As far as anything that rides on the road, yeah. Yeah, we're actually seeing a 35 to 47% increase on equipment. Yeah, as well as some of the ride is going anywhere between from 10 up to 40%. Just depends on what it is.
Thank you.
Thank you, good question. So here's something we're all. Y'all help with this? Okay. We're always thinking safety first at the department. We look at all different type things and come across this. This is a light that's actually not even on the market right now. So they're actually partnering with Wayland Company to put this, and this thing will shine 100 feet out and show one of our employees wearing his reflective PPE, his equipment. You'll see this is a video I made. I'm not a video partner. You see what it does? It just pow, cut it up, pow. At 100 feet away, it does that. We're going to start looking at possibly putting these on once they're on the market, looking at our Foreman trucks as well as some of our bucket trucks. Thinking forward, always thinking safety, as well as we got another company my office is looking at for a bucket truck proximity. So it's actually when the bucket truck's up in the air working on the traffic light, he's going to be able to tell the height from the ground to the bottom of the bucket. So he never gets in the lane where the truck's hitting. Yes, we're actually working through that right now. I just want to tell y'all all thanks for your support to us. Comes through y'all. And any questions?
Any questions? Jeff, could you speak to that, what we lease, how we sort of determine what we lease versus what we buy?
Good point.
Because
Very good point. Yeah, so there's some equipment, you gotta, you back and look at your utilization on your equipment. And I'll give you, for instance, let's use a eradicator. Okay, an eradicator is something that's gonna take up the old painted lines. Once we're done taking that old painted line up, it goes to the barn. And we wait on the next one. It may take months, years before we have to do an eradicator and take that old line back up. That's an expense for us to spend, $10,000 on an eradicator for it to set in the barns. We looked at utilization of what we can. We built a lease and rental program to quit purchasing, high dollar stuff like that. But high dollar could be a lot of smalls. Y'all seen that in the thing, yeah? So we put the leasing program, we can lease it, go rent it. Rent it, take it back to rental place. Now it ain't sitting in the barn, we can go to work on it because it's not gonna work after 2 years. Yeah, so we're doing that through pretty much all of our equipment. We're actually with DOS right now, putting together a new contract and possibly putting different type vehicles and trucks in it.
What's DLS?
Department of Administrative Services, or one of our sister agencies.
Which they have to approve all our buy lists. So as good as Jeff is, and he and his team do a great job, they ultimately have some of the approvals and sign-offs on what we do. They're also responsible for every state agency's utilization and maintenance, making sure that people are taking care of things. So there is a partnership with the Department of Administrative Services there.
Yes, sir. All right. Any other questions? Well, thank y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. And I can move the meeting. So, any questions for anything? So, I mean, thank y'all for coming here.
Are we on our own for getting back?
We got some DOT Uber. Jeff runs